Hey, Teddy K here for the Best Buy blog, and in this video review, we look at the Google Pixel 7a, Google's latest mid-range phone that punches way above its weight. Normally, I'd be hesitant to say that you should upgrade a phone from one year to the next, but in the case of the Google Pixel 7a, I think there might be a good case to suggest that maybe you should. At least if you have an older phone, like an older Pixel, this phone may be the one you want to go with, primarily because it is cheaper than the other options, and also it punches above its weight. If you compare this to the Pixel 6a, you might think, well, okay, off the bat, I don't really notice much of a difference. And there isn't a huge difference when you first look at it, but when you go into the specs and you look at what's offered here, you start to notice some significant differences because Google at least added things that it didn't before and brought them in here. So for example, while the screen's the same, it's a little brighter this time, which I liked. Personally, I also like that wireless charging is now a thing, if now a feature on here. You get slightly better water resistance at IP68 as compared to 6.7 before. And on top of that, you have a different camera module in the back. So you have a different main camera, different ultra wide as well. So Google did change some things. And of course, I haven't even mentioned the Tensor G2 processor is the same chipset, Google's chipset that is in the other Pixel 7 models. So you're running similar specs, at least compared to the other Pixel 7 phones, not entirely, of course, lower storage, 128 gigs and 8 gigs of RAM, which is an upgrade because the previous Pixel 6a had 6. So certain upgrades around, across the board, I think make, they combine to make this phone what it is. I'll start with performance because the performance and the software generally tell their own story, but really it's not that there's anything exceptional going on here. It's not that Google added some crazy new feature or anything like that. It's not that. It's more so that the phone just runs more efficiently. For example, the battery is smaller on this phone than it was in the previous one, yet it runs more efficiently, meaning that you might last 2 or 3 hours longer per charge with this compared to its predecessor. So those kind of efficiencies are sort of permeate the device. I just found things were smoother, like for example, the 90 hertz refresh rate. The Pixel 6a capped it at 60, which was something I thought was a mistake. I would have liked to have seen at least 90. I mean, 120 would be great, but you're not going to get that on this phone. You're going to get 90. And to me, it makes a difference. It is off by default. You will have to go into the settings to turn it on if you want that feature. What surprised me the most about it is that I thought it would hit battery life more than it did, but it actually didn't, which was a pleasant surprise. Again, things like the haptic feedback, I don't know that you're going to find a phone at this price range that's going to do haptics the same way this does. It just feels great. So whatever it is you really want to do with this phone, I don't, from, standard stuff, right? Messaging, browsing, various apps, listening to music, and right down to even playing some games, I don't know that you're really going to notice anything unusual here. For mixed usage, the phone is well built to handle all that and to stay on. Battery life has been a problem for Pixel phones in past years. I cannot say that it is with this one, at least not yet. On the camera side, I'm going to say quickly, so there is a new camera module in here. So it's a 64 megapixel main camera sensor with a 13 megapixel ultra wide, and then you get the 13 megapixel in the front too. The key thing here is that, like the other Pixel 7 phones, this one shoots with pixel binning. So you can't shoot at the full resolution of 64 megapixels, but you can shoot 16 megapixels because, it's 4:1 binning. What I liked particularly with the camera in this case was it was more, again, I know I'm just keep using the same word, but it was more efficient this time. So if you're using night sight, you want to take a night shot, it's going to happen twice as fast and you notice it. But it's not just night sight. Taking any photo, the rendering just seems to be faster. I'm going to credit that probably to the Tensor chipset for really spearheading that, but it just changes the way you shoot photos and video, in my opinion, because now you can be a lot quicker when you shoot. It's probably one of the reasons why I think Google also included the long exposure mode. This is a carryover from the other Pixel 7 phones. You won't get action pan, which is in those phones, but long exposure is pretty cool. It's something that I think is worth experimenting if you want to try and get creative and make some interesting photos of movement, right? So whether it's a vehicle, people, animals, whatever it is, you can really find some interesting photos that come out of that. I should also mention with photos, you also get some of those Google Photos features like Magic Eraser, Camouflage, which was introduced in the Pixel 6a, and a new one called Sky. So Sky, what Sky does is it will It will recognize the sky in a photo and allow you to change the tonality, the color, things like that. So you can get a little creative in what kind of effect you want to bring out from it. It still needs some polish. It's good. It could be better, but at the same time, I appreciate that a feature like that even exists on a mid-range phone like this. And I imagine you would too. Like Magic Eraser, Camouflage, those are all better now than they were before. And because they're powered by the Tensor G2 chipset, they run faster than they used to. So even after you've taken photos, the way you edit them speeds up as well. And of course, if you want to use these features on existing photos that you already have in Google Photos, you can do that too. The one caveat I noticed though is that Sky seems to only work on photos that were taken with this phone. I don't know why, but I could not get it to work on photos that were taken with other phones, including if they were the Pixel 7 Pro. Not sure why that is, but that was a limitation that I found. To summarize, this is one of the best phones I've used in 2023, primarily because of what it offers for what it costs. Flagship phones are everywhere and they're getting better and better. And typically what happens is that features from those phones trickle down to phones like this in the mid-range. But the line is blurring significantly between Google's flagships and its mid-range phones. Like the difference between the Pixel 7a and the Pixel 7, the Pro is different, but the Pixel 7 is not that significant. That one has a slightly larger screen. It offers 256 gigs for storage, and not a whole lot else, really. They are very similar devices, and so you could pay $100 more, or whatever it is. I mean, whatever it is by the time you watch this, or you can pay less and get this. And that's what I find interesting here, is that Google has made a strong case for actually paying less for one of its devices. And I feel like if you're not looking for a flagship experience, you don't really care that much, but you want something that is going to feel really valuable based on what you paid for it, I don't think you're going to go wrong with the Pixel 7a. And that's my review of the Google Pixel 7a. For the Best Buy blog, I'm Teddy K. Thanks for watching.